Hi, everybody. This is Marilyn. Um, are we, do we have audio? Thanks, Lou. Thanks. Okay. Well, my goodness. We've had a lot of activity. This is really something. Looks like the trading gods decided to get with it today. The, um, the indices have, they have all been real strong, but it's kind of unusual to see the ES lead this parade, and it sure did this morning. Anyway, we've got I've got cell phones and all stuff going off here. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's interfering with whatever. Anyway, this morning it looks like ES has been the strongest of our four indices, but they've all been pretty much in sync. And as these things went up, you notice bonds trade almost exactly opposite. So when they backed off a little while, the bonds came up, and now bonds have really taken a nice run down. Bonds for the last several trading sessions have been really, really good. Anyway, what I've got here to show you, if you've been watching this, we had the inventory right at 10:30, and so let's see here. At 10:30, crude oil cleared this red ice, and the inventory wasn't all that different from what had been forecast. The forecast was just within one tiny little tenth of a percent or something. But if you have noticed, we've got a new, it's a new feature actually on the Apex pattern. And what it's designed to do, when we all, back in the beginning, when we had to be able to count to 2 and count our Apex E's for a change in the trend, the system is now going to do that for us. And I believe this is going to be released very, very shortly, because it seems to be spot on. But it defaults to a lighter colored E, and yes, the E, you can trade it, but you need to be aware that the trend has not turned yet until we get the dark green one, and that the red ones have the same thing. They're the first one of a trend change is kind of a warning, and it paints a little paler red. The other thing that happened when this, and when it gets to settlement, you know darn well what's going to happen. It's gonna dance around and chop around for a little while. But when it decided to leave this alchemy, I really like seeing this check mark on this alchemy. Seems to be very, very accurate, and put in a check mark down here right at that settlement. So anyway, I find it easier to trade with a little bit of 2 or 3 charts with a little different configuration. If you put every indicator you could possibly want on one chart, I find it way too confusing, and I get paralyzed with trying to analyze it. But if I take stuff that I want to refer to occasionally and put it on a different chart with a different either time frame or a different bar setup, then for me, it's much easier. But I did want to show you, I mean, this Apex with these bonds, let me show you this. This is just so cool. With this is with Lori's C's, but about I don't know, what is this about? There have been several entries. I don't like bonds. When I first started looking at it this morning, it was about 8:30, and you couldn't really tell if this was going to be an elevator or what it was going to do here. So you just wait. It'll do something sooner or later. Well, you could have taken this uh, from the mid ice up to, this is the high of yesterday. That's, I have all these little streets on here because the bus drivers are very familiar with these streets. But the beauty of this thing is when it finally did reverse up here, and it was right at a deviation, and it literally never, it's still going. I mean, where will it go? Who knows? But if it's still continues this, it'll probably go down to this deviation level down here. This is certainly not the time to enter it, but when you get these, and I keep the trend catcher on mine. I like the trend catcher entries. You can't use every single one of them blindly, just because trend catcher gives you an entry, because it will give you entries on elevators too that you may wish you hadn't taken. So it's best for me to have 2 or 3 different kinds of charts. The other thing I noticed yesterday, somebody in the chat brought up a really good point that they were trying to get over, getting every single tick, or it was the way they put it, and it was perfect. It was to get over leaving money on the table. You are always going to leave money on the table. Always. It's just like you are never going to have the absolute perfect trade. The goal is to get a good entry, and if you get 60% of the move, then you've done a great job. So don't worry about trying to get every last tick that was known to mankind out there, because you're just not going to get it. Nobody does. So just worry. The first thing to worry about is getting a good entry. If you get a good entry, they're not all going to be the same. They're not all created equally, but it's that 60% rule of if you get 60% of a move, then you've done a great job. Don't worry about leaving a few ticks on the table. There'll be other ticks that come along. So it's just not possible to get every single solitary one. Brent and West Texas have really bolted up today. So I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but the Kuwaitis got over their strike, I think, yesterday. And then the inventory report today. But there's almost a $2 difference right now between Brent and crude, West Texas. So we'll see what happens. The other thing that's of interest today is the VIX going down. The VIX is below 13 right now, and you don't see that very often. I think once this last fall it got down to around 10 something, which is really unusual. But this is a very low VIX, so there may be some more upside in these indices. Tomorrow for the news, we're going to have news at 8:30. U.S. economic news is the Philly Fed and the unemployment claims. God, I just love that. And anyway, we'll have that. That comes out every Thursday. And at 10 o'clock, if you are trading any of the currencies tomorrow that have a dollar or a British pound component to them, you might want to be aware of 10 o'clock, because the bigwig from the Bank of England is going to be speaking, and that's flagged as a red flag for the British pound tomorrow at 10 o'clock. They're sort of trying to debate about whether they're going to take interest rates to -0, and they're still dealing with putting up this referendum in the early part of June of whether they're going to stay in the euro or not, in the eurozone. They never converted to the euro. They've held their British pound sterling, but they are in that pact or trade agreement. So there's going to be some interesting movements coming on the British pound. Anyway, tomorrow also is nat gas, and I think Denali's kind of the leader of the band on the grain reports. The ag reports come out tomorrow too. So when you've had these nice trends like this up until about noon, and if you've met your goal, I would be real careful about trading this afternoon because it's likely to go into some chop for a while. The close today might be kind of interesting too. So anyway, with that, this has been my view from my world in Apex land. And I'll see you tomorrow about noon. Thanks.